Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Today we have Dustin Bingaman. Dustin is the president of Arrowhead Capital Mortgage. He's been working in the lending industry for over 20 years. He's a native to Southern California, and he's been in this area since he was 2.
Wow. True.
Dustin,
Very true.
Good to have you on. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, guys. It's good to be here. I'm a podcast rookie, so we're breaking in together.
Well, good deal. So are we, if we're being honest with ourselves.
I mean, we don't have an episode released yet, so this could be our first episode.
Who knows?
We might use this as the first one.
It depends how you do, Dustin. No pressure.
No pressure. Better bring some decent content here.
That's right. Why don't we start? Can you tell us a little about kind of where you came from and how you actually ended up in lending?
Yeah. So that's kind of fun, just to be totally candid. I played baseball in college, and that was my dream, like any kid who plays baseball growing up. I want to be a big league ball player. That was the vision. I played a year at Chafee out in Rancho area, and then I threw out my shoulder that summer. Decided to go to RCC to rehab, and in the process, obviously, I needed work. We had a family friend who owned a car dealership over in Riverside, and so I wandered in to see if I could wash cars. And in an hour-long conversation, he goes, "Man, I don't want you to wash cars. I want you to sell cars." And I was like, "I don't really want to sell cars, and I just want to wash them. I just want a little job to do." And I don't think I was there for 3 months. It was just a random Saturday. Had a guy pull in. I called it the Magnum PI Ferrari.
Yeah.
He pulled in with that drop-top red Ferrari, and he wanted to put his car on consignment. I was a 19-year-old kid. I really didn't have a direction. I was going to college and just working on rehabbing. I ended up taking his car in trade, and I sold him 2 cars. He came back the following Saturday with his 2 nephews, and he sat there in the car lot for about 4 hours in a 3-piece suit. And he said, "I want you to come work for me. I want you to come work for me." And I said, "I don't even know what you do." He says, "I do mortgages." And I was like, "I don't even know what a mortgage is." Okay. I was worried about if I was going to have biscuits and gravy or a breakfast burrito for breakfast. That was where I was at.
Real
life.
concerns. Yeah.
So did he mention what he saw in you, where he's like, "I'm coming back"?
So his
I'm
big
getting this
thing,
19-year-old
his
kid.
big thing was, I came in to put my car on consignment, and you sold me 2 cars. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mean to get you in trouble with your wife." And the reality is my tenacity, probably more than anything, about how I spoke about something I was passionate about. That was cars. I mean, what 19-year-old kid doesn't love cars?
Sure.
Every one of us grew up looking at magazines of watches, houses, and cars, and that was kind of the big thing. So I had a big liking to that, and so as that happened, that's where I ended up. So the best part was Rudy brought in his 2 nephews. It was Omar and Christian, and one of them drove an S600 Mercedes.
Okay.
If you remember the old rap videos of Biggie Smalls back in the day, it had that 20-inch Lorenzer package, and it was the styling thing. And he pulled in one of those, and he goes, "He doesn't speak English," and I was like, "Okay." And this is what he does, and I was like, "Oh, I speak English. Is there hope for me?" And that was it. Honestly, I was willing to take a shot. I went out. They were out of Rancho Cucamonga, Upland area. It's called Money Plus Financial.
Okay.
And he gave me a phone book, and I was like, "Well, what do I do this?" And he goes, "Pick a letter." W. It was excellent. Turn to W. It was the white pages, bro. And he said, just call people and ask them if they would like to buy a home.
Wow.
And I was like,
And you're 19 at this point.
19. So you can imagine if you, as a young adult, would have a 19-year-old kid call you today and ask you if you want to buy a home. I had no idea.
Yeah.
It was a quick hook. And my very first phone call, they said, not my first phone call, my first client on the line that was willing to talk. "Well, we already own a home." And I literally covered up the phone. I was like, "They already own a home." He's like, "Maybe they want to refinance." And he goes, "Put them on hold. Put them on hold." He ran into the office and he talked to them. They came into the office. I'll never forget my first Saturday appointment. He goes, "Look, you're going to sit at that desk and you're going to say literally nothing other than hello, it's really nice to meet you. And you're going to take down a few notes. I'm going to do everything." Great. I had no clue. I got my first commission check. It was $1,300.
Nice.
And I was like, "What's this for?"
Paid to learn.
"Yeah, that's your commission check." And I was like, "For talking to those people? I could do this again and again." And I had no clue. I mean, when it came down to asking for documents that I needed a W-2,
Yeah.
I was only sure of what a W-2 was because I had recently gotten back a small tax return of like $300 as a
Okay.
kid. So
There you go.
I didn't
It's a good
have,
thing.
I didn't have a clue.
He enticed you with that Biggie Smalls S600 Mercedes.
Yeah,
They
the
got
other
you.
one. The other one drove a 911 turbo. So,
Ooh, very nice.
I didn't stay there very long. As it turns out, there was maybe not the best things on earth happening there, and so
Okay.
that was a very short-lived time in my life. But I did learn a lot from where I was at, and I was grateful for the things that were positive that I learned about this
Yeah.
industry. I'm also grateful for the things that I learned that were not great about this industry.
Right. Well, that was what year then? It was
99.
It's 99. So you've lived through a few of the eras we've had of. You've seen some changes in the lending industry.
I
for
have.
sure. Yeah.
When I got into the industry, selling 9.5 on an FHA loan was just where interest rates were at.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I remember my father refinancing to 7.75 and that being epic.
Yeah.
Like holy cow! I mean, we just saved $250. Today is like $250 is how much people spend on average every month at Starbucks. It's just a normality. So
Yeah.
a lot of variance in where the times were to the late 90s, early 2000s to today. But
Okay.
I've seen a few things.
And you run a big team now, right? And how many people do you employ or are on your team, I should ask?
So we have 17
Okay.
at Arrowhead Capital, support staff, and we have 9 loan officers. So I've got a great crew over there. I have a couple of loan officers that are newer to the industry, but I'm just telling you, it's impressive to see how quickly they learn. They're grasping and they ask a ton of questions. I'm probably reminded of how potentially annoying I was to Rudy in my tenure at the very beginning, not really having a clue. But I mean, you can't ask for anything more. If you have people who have a desire to learn, it's no different. And this industry is a trial by error, which is unfortunate. But we try to do that under guidance, so they're learning throughout a transaction while having their hand held and not being in a position to where it's like, yeah, you're being fed to the wolves, and I'm sorry, you completely screwed that up and ruined your name forever in this industry. So
Yeah, we do an apprenticeship program because
Yeah.
I think live fire is the best way to learn. I mean, you learn a lot from classes are important and continuing education is very important, but you really have to like sell a few houses to know how to sell houses.
And until you've walked through a transaction, you've navigated a home inspection, you've navigated disclosures with the client. Same thing on our end, right? They have the pre-disclosures where they're coming in and it's like, how do I generate a loan estimate? It's like, great, we're going to get you there. There's a few pieces of documentation that you have to have before you supply that. So, and obviously, the biggest things are when you consider like the LLPAs that we face today, the variance between where credit scores lie. There's a lot of talk about that right now within the market, but there's so many pieces that as I look at your situation, Joe, or your situation, Zach, it's like they're very different, even though you're like, I have a 740 credit score. Your situations are all different, and it's the same when you deal with clients. So you have to have that experience.
And getting creative too, right? Just
Yeah.
knowing, not putting people in things they shouldn't buy, but knowing how to work through numbers or an employment situation, or
Yeah.
right
Sure.
in a way
And
that benefits your client.
So many
right?
unique situations, of course.
Yeah.
I want to jump back to, okay, you talked about people coming into your office, having an ability to learn. Is there anything else you're looking for when you're hiring? What impresses you in an interview?
I think the biggest thing that you would look at in this industry is people who are immune to the answer no.
Okay.
I'm a part of a coaching group called the Core Training, and
Yeah.
one of the things that stood out to me probably 5 or 6 years ago, we were at a summit, and on stage he just said, he goes, "Is there anyone here who struggles with insecurities? I want eyes closed." And
Sure.
you've got a room full of people who are $300,000 to $5 million earners at that point in time.
Crazy.
And they're very, they're astute financially. They're in a healthy position, right? In a quiet room with eyes closed, you see all these hands go up. You don't see them, but at the end of it, he says, "I want you guys to just open your eyes for a moment." And there's like 600 people in the room, and 590 of them have their hand raised.
Wow.
And he goes, in a room full of high earners, you guys are still struggling with insecurity. And what is the greatest insecurity that we struggle with? Rejection, right? And so somebody who has the ability to say they have an immunity to the word no it's not accurate, but the ability to continue asking until you're able to find those relationships.
Yeah.
I think with clients alike and with our realtor partners, it takes time, right? you guys could talk to 10 lenders and be in great relationships with 8 of them, but you may only refer one of them. This may be the one that you trust personally. And that's not a dagger on any of the other people. It's just, who do you feel like you're most aligned with? And clients need that with you. They need to feel like the advice that I'm being given is it's trustworthy. I'm being led in the right direction. And it's no different when it comes to your realtor partners. You have to be in a relationship with people. You have to be in relationship with people who look at you as a guiding light. I think that's probably the biggest thing, is people who have the ability to say, I'm going to continue to press on until I find the people that are willing and wanting to align with me and seek my counsel.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, is that helpful?
Grit,
like
right? You're looking for grit.
That's a fantastic word.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned you're at the core. I'm a student of the core coaching as well. Dustin actually sucked me into that. So
sucked him into a life full of wealth. You're welcome.
Yeah. No, it's been a good deal so far. Are you going to Summit next week, by the way?
I am.
I'll see you there.
I'll be flying out
Texas,
tomorrow.
right?
Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
San Antonio.
There you go.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that is a lot of people in that room we're talking 1%.
Yeah.
1% of the wealthiest people in the world.
Yep.
Certainly not, but and they're dealing with that. So I think that's good feedback for a newer agent or loan officer who's getting turned down. No, people who literally make $3 million a year also struggle with this. Don't feel like you're alone.
Yeah.
And it's one of the hardest things for agents is picking up the phone, making those calls.
Every
Even
day it's so
existing
tough.
clients, they don't want to call They don't want to pick up the phone and call past clients. It's like, dude, you sold these people a house.
Right.
They like you.
They already elected to work with you. There's
Yeah.
no reason that they shouldn't take your phone call unless the last time you talked to them, they told you, stick it in your ear. I never want to speak to you again.
Yeah, and maybe you shouldn't call those people.
Yeah,
sometimes.
those ones, maybe we give them the grace and not.
Yeah, you got to take a hint occasionally, right?
That's called getting kicked in the teeth and welcome to real estate.
Yeah.
It's interesting, just to kind of parlay onto that. I had a call with Rick last week because I want to be able to make sure that I'm helping my loan officers have success. As I look at my volume, I'm satisfied with where we're at and what we're building upon, the real estate partners that we have, what our closings look like month to month, but I'm not satisfied with what we look like as a company. And so as a general concern, I want to make sure that I'm taking care of those who entrust me to lead them, whether that be my support staff or my loan officers. And so obviously, as we've seen volume down significantly, right? Over the last 14, 16 months, somewhere in that range, I've seen my LOs, my loan officers, their volume has dropped significantly.
Right.
So I had a call with Rick Ruby, and one of the things that him and I talked about is he said, remember that your job as the leader, and I think that this parlays for you as well, your job as the leader is to get anyone who comes to work for you to 100,000. For them to get past 100,000 is on their own. Right? Like if you can lead them to $100,000 a year income, that's what most people get into this industry, whether it's lending or real estate for. I want freedom and flexibility of schedule. I want to earn $100,000 a year. And that's because we come out of college today, and a general degree coming out of college is going to pay you somewhere in the neighborhood of $45,000 to $60,000. But yet you may have put yourself in $60,000 worth of debt. Like we've created a cycle of never actually becoming debt free. So I like the idea that my job is to get them to 100. It's their decision if they're going to go to 200, 500, or whatever that looks like. But we're guiding them to that path.
Lead the horse to water kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Makes sense
so
to me.
I was a fan of the way you said it. So we have a daily thing that we're doing at the office right now. It's called 9 to 2. We start dialing at 9 a.m. and you call until you get 2 leads. At 2 leads per day, that's 40 leads per month. You should be able to substantiate 3 to 5 closings a month in assisting families with acquisition of real estate. So it really broke it down and kept it simple for me as a leader of what my responsibility is to each of them individually. So
yeah, and that's something I think about too. We hire kind of selectively in our office, not because we don't want more people on necessarily, but I try to only hire on people that I feel are going to be successful here. A good part of our culture, right? And it's a real open-ended interview, which is some real estate models are they need to have 300 agents for their, and that's fine. Like people are very successful with that model. Our model's a lot smaller. We run a much smaller operation here, right? But it's, our folks are going to be able to do that. And if I see someone who I don't think is going to be successful in our model, I just tell them, like, I don't know if this is going to be a great fit for you. Because what's the point, right? Because I'm going to invest 3 months training them and they're going to leave. So you've been doing the loan thing a long time. Interesting you mentioned as far as market volatility. We talk about it a lot in here. I think in our area, overall transactional volume is down about 40%, right? Year over year.
Yep.
And it's we feel for the lenders sometimes because I might list a house, there might be 3 transactions out of that listing, and there's no loan involved at all. So if our volume is down 40%, what is the loan industry's volume down right now compared
question.
to a year ago even?
Yeah. So, I mean,
Not to be grim, but I'm
No,
just...
no, 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 no.
Yeah,
They were
I
not
don't-
doing the refinances as much, I'm sure.
I don't look at it like that. Obviously, during those are I call it a unicorn year, right? So, 2020, 2021, there was a lot of the terminology in the industry is called churning, and it was unintentional, right?
Sure.
But if we did a refinance that took somebody to 3.25% to 3.75%, they were in a great spot. Most people were coming from the mid fours. That savings right there was on a $500,000 house, somewhere in the neighborhood of $300 to $450 a month, depending on what people came into it with. And we built equity so quickly, right? It was like the summer of $100,000. The volume,
It was. Yeah,
it really
it
was. Like, oh, you bought in June? Yeah, it's November. Yeah, your house is worth $150,000 more than it was. Congratulations for sleeping there.
Euphoria.
We're calling clients who we sold houses to in 2019,
Yeah.
because we have so many buyers right now looking. Hey, that house we sold you, would you like to make $150,000 and move out of state or
Yeah.
something? Because we
Yeah.
have somebody who will pay you this for it.
Yeah.
Anyways, not to cut you off.
No,
but-
you're good. It's just that was the reality. So then we saw rates drop down to, I mean, in certain cases, you were sub 2% on 15-year mortgages. That's wild, right?
It's free money.
As
Man.
low
Yeah,
It's
it is.
crazy.
2.25%, 2.5% situationally, some conventional, some VA. Obviously, that wasn't the norm, but we did see 2.75 to 3% as a norm.
Right.
So at that point in time, you really had less benefit financially as far as what the dollar savings were. And we took a lot of people from a 30-year term to like a 22-year term, and the payment remained relatively the same. But to save $100 didn't justify what the cost was. So we saved years. And when you have that go away, it does put a damper on what your volume looks like as a company. I think we did right under 400 million in 2021, and I think last year we did 225 as a company. So drastically different numbers in what that looks like. So obviously those are the things that I look at from a leadership perspective.
you have
of
to.
How do I make sure that I'm taking care of those who are with me? Because I am all in for those guys. But yeah, I mean, the best answer to your question is when money is cheap, people borrow more, which is how we end up in an inflationary market because everyone wants to be able to buy more and leverage more.
Yeah.
In this market, the cost of goods has to go up, the cost of labor has to go up. And now as an owner, my cost of doing business has increased, but the volume has decreased. So it's like they're crossing paths for a war right there.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where we are in this moment.
And
right?
that's us
So-
too. I mean, our cost of business has gone up a lot. We're doing. There was a period. We always try to hold the standard.
Sure.
But there was a period there where it was like you could sell the house. I mean,
Yeah.
sign in the yard and the price. And I mean, our marketing package is just extensive compared to 2 years ago. Because back then it was to the client's benefit not to do all that because we just need to get this thing listed now.
All we have to do is put this
Yeah.
on the MLS and I'll order a sign up, but we'll probably be in escrow long
Right.
before that,
Yeah.
that
Right.
sign is even in the
a
yard
lot more
tomorrow.
prep now, a lot more work, big
Yeah.
market. But it's picking up again though. I mean, if you have a
Yeah.
good listing today in Redlands, everything we're listing that's anywhere near affordable is
Well, the supply is so
yeah.
low. I would still say the transactions is still so much lower.
Yeah.
But such a limited supply.
I think you have a large contingent of cash transactions right now, which is to be expected, right? Nobody wants to finance if they're in this market. I think that you'll see a lot of those transactions turn to a refinance when we see a market, let's say we're at 4%, right? So you're going to see a lot more, fingers crossed. Hurry.
And the Fed, the Fed can't keep the rate that low forever. There's no free lunch, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing some of that right
No,
now.
the free lunch happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Free lunch is over.
The free lunch is over, and the national debt is 18 trillion.
And that's
or
the cost.
whatever.
I mean, that's the cost, right? So
and we're paying the price for it right now.
So you've been doing this a minute, right? And what's fun about talking with the lenders, we could go off like all different directions. If you're not familiar or that familiar with the real estate industry, we work with lenders all the time.
I want to give you one thing as you talk
Please.
about kind of like what March looked like to what April looked like to what may be building like. Right now, what you're seeing in my world is as we approach that 5.99, 6%. Okay, it's 5.99 on paper because we all feel good about that. As we approach that 5.99, you're seeing the volume of sales increase, and you're seeing people willing to pay over list price for your turnkey style properties.
Totally.
And we're seeing, $10,000 to $60,000 again. It's a little wild where we're at in this immediate market, but The biggest thing that we're seeing pick up is as we see rates approach that just below that 6% threshold, volume picks up very quickly.
Volume picks up, yeah.
Our leads pick up very quickly.
I think we saw that too.
When everyone hits their foot on the gas at the same time, then we run into the now you're paying $30,000 over list.
Right.
And so there has to be a balance as we're talking to our consumers about, I don't really want to loan you money at 7.25. I feel bad in my heart of hearts. I really do. However, if this is the house you want and this is the neighborhood in which you want, 7.25 is the right time to buy it. We're going to have our opportunity. We cannot stay in this inflationary market forever. Mm-hmm. The downside is, are you asking me, is it 3, 6, 9, 12, 18, 24 months? I don't know the answer. Sure. I can give you statistical data that would support that sometime in the next 12 months, we should definitely see that. But I think you can throw most statistical data out the window after traveling through COVID. We saw the stock market crash. We saw the stock market flourish. We saw rates drop. We saw rates jump. We saw what looked like the end of the real estate market at the beginning of 2020. Like everything came to a complete halt in the first quarter. So just notate right now as you're seeing volume increase where rates are at. And we're on that cusp right now of that 5.99 again on 30-year conventional loans. So it varies again for every consumer. That's not a quote on rates or anything. It's just, of course, as we watch what that looks like, that threshold is where we're seeing the market start to jump.
No, I get what you're saying too. Like people are like, I really want lower rates. But what does that actually look like in the market? Should rates dip to 5%? How does that affect supply?
Well, supply, it's not even that, but it's just, there's, like you said, there's the debt, right? There's a counterbalance to the Fed lowering rates that much, right? And we could do a whole podcast on that.
Totally.
I couldn't. I would just confuse people. But no, it's funny. We were joking this week. You talk about supply inventory or limited inventory. There's a new listing just popped up, 2 miles from here this week. And I think our office of 9 agents, between the 9 of us, that we showed that listing to 6 different clients.
6.
Because there's nothing to buy. And it's, it's funny. It's so much of it has to do on your area. It depends on your area too, right? Mm-hmm. Like Los Angeles, I think people are leaving Los Angeles County at a rate of 5.9 to 1. Our county, San Bernardino and Riverside, are projected to grow at twice the rate as the rest of Southern California for the next 20 years. So when people talk to us and they go, my wife and I are house shopping right now in Redlands. Are you concerned about the market? What's going to happen?
The house across the street's for sale. I'd love to have you as a neighbor.
Yes.
Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Would you loan me $4 million? I think that's what I want for. Yeah.
I didn't say that it's a cash transaction opportunity. I'm just throwing out different
worry about interest rates.
Yeah. That is a killer house. But people ask, are you concerned? I go, look, I don't know what's going to happen. I do know that whatever I buy, I'm going to own it for the next 30 years. Right. I don't really care. Yeah. I'm not worried. I don't really care if it does this and does this because I know it's eventually going to be back up here. Right.
Well, for me, your mom has stood out as a real estate mogul in our area. Mm-hmm. And I remember talking to your mom in 2012, 13.
Okay.
She was buying houses regularly.
Yeah.
1, 2, or 3 a year.
Yeah.
And I remember
must be nice.
Just in candid conversation one day, I was like, Rita, what are you doing? Why are you buying so much real estate? And she goes, Dustin, it's always worth more than what you pay for it. And I was like, no, it's not. She goes, no, it's not if you sell it at the wrong time. It will always be worth more than what you pay for it. And as I look at her, it's not a sail into the sunset. That's not the right word. But as I watch her enjoying where she's at in life right now, I was like, you really weren't wrong, Rita. You really were absolutely right. So I can take a lesson from that a decade later.
And I have to say, it is like the most disgusting thing for people. I'm in my early 30s, right? Yeah. Late 20s.
Oh,
we look back at what what our parents paid for houses, even 10 years ago.
It's
and
not
just
fair.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you what you paid for this building.
Yeah.
You would cry.
Yeah.
It's just like, what? What? That's like a nice truck. That's,
Yeah, my biggest crime was in 3rd grade. I was trying to sharpen my pencil rather than
buying real estate.
Then buying a financial mistake is not, being in high school during the crash.
Right. Should have bought a duplex and house hacked and,
So you get hit up a lot for loan stuff. Obviously, I'm sure people talk to you about employment a lot and what should they do. What kind of advice do you have for someone, regardless of age or whatever, who's interested in getting into this industry or the lending industry?
Well, I think we touched on that at the beginning a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think that the setup that you have with what your training looks like here and how you're selecting people is the same way that I look at things. Mm-hmm. Age isn't a factor, okay? I do think that in some capacity you have to decide, if I was a consumer, would I be seeking counsel from the person who's trying to sell me something?
Okay.
So I think that there's a balance of what we see as like who we would see as a leader or that we would seek counsel from. If I was in my 20s, I would probably talk to somebody who's successful in their 40s. If I'm in my 40s and I have $5 million, I probably want to talk to somebody who's in their 50s or 60s with $10 million, right? So it's just a matter of like, how do I fit in line with who would be receiving counsel from me? One of the things that I considered during that tenure of deciding mortgage or insurance at the car lot was he wanted me to sell life insurance. And he was like, not the guy that I went to work for, but another gentleman. And he was like, you're going to have a tough time because you're 19 and you're going to be trying to sell insurance to people that are in their 50s and 60s. And so for them to look at you, I think there's something to be said there, but I don't think that age is a factor for this industry. I think that experience is what you're looking for. And if you're entering into this industry, you need to have somebody who's a mentor to you that's willing to walk side by side with you. I think the biggest misconception that anybody is not taking in consideration is that education comes at a cost. If you're going to have somebody be a mentor to you, that means they're taking their experience and they're pouring into you. And that may not mean that you're going to be compensated at the highest level during that point of entry. There's a cost of education in college. There's a cost of education and a rite of passage in all things in business. I don't think that any CEO of a major corporation woke up one day and just said, I've been elected as the CEO of this. Either they developed the product, they became the CEO, or they worked up within an organization to get to that level. It's the same thing in this industry. So seek out a mentor that is willing to work with you, that you're going to take counsel from. I think it's a 2-year process. Honestly, I think that for you to get some transactions under your belt with a mentor, lending or real estate, then you can begin to spread your wings a little bit. And some people are able to do it sooner, but I think that 2 years is a realistic time frame to say, I'm going to seek out counsel and mentorship, and I'm going to be under your guidance and authority, which is what most people don't want. Focus on the authoritative word. Most of us get into this business because we want to have freedom of schedule. It's not freedom of schedule. I don't want to be told what to do. They want to lack authority. And when you lack authority, you lack the ability to be guided. That's the whole reason of why I would choose to come along with your organization, because I want you to guide me rather than I want you to pay me 90%. Everyone's looking at the dollar amount rather than what the value of the education is.
Right.
So find someone who can be your authoritative figure and guide you with your best interests at heart too. So.
Well, I think there's a way to benefit both parties. Like Joe, I can get knowledge and experience, and Joe can help me close more deals. Like I can bring Joe to a listing appointment. Maybe I'm a brand new agent, but guess what? I'm going to bring in the heavy hitter of the office. I'm still going to get to learn, make money, and Joe's going to make money. I'm going to get knowledge. So it's such a way to benefit both sides too.
I think you see it exactly the way that it should be, and that's probably why you're aligned here.
And I think that's most of the ultra successful agents I know had some sort of mentorship. I'm very fortunate because I was born into it. My mom is Rita Shaw. That's great. Like I've learned a ton from her, but I've also learned a ton from other agents I work with. I call other guys, we're working a land deal right now. I called Doug Jurisma for advice because he's like the land guy. I didn't pretend to know what I was talking about. I think that's big too. But I like that a lot. Mentorship. And I love it when one of the first things I tell everyone when they come work here, because this is back in like the Air Force days, they really beat this into you, is if you don't know, don't pretend you know.
True.
Hey, Dustin, you know what? That's a great question. I'm not sure. Let me get back to you. So acknowledging the fact that you don't know everything, people love that. I've never had a client be like, well, that's unacceptable, Joe. I need an agent who knows everything. Actually getting back to them, that's the catch.
The right answer is better than a BS answer. And I've got 3 of them that are under a year service time as loan originators. They all 3 have a yellow notepad. I'm as old school as they come with that. And the appropriate answer to any question that you don't know is, man, I believe I have an answer, and I'm not going to tell you because I want to be correct first and foremost. So I'm going to get you the correct answer. And then for fun, Joe, I'm going to tell you if I would have given you the correct answer or if I would have given you guidance that would have been poor counsel. That right there is just, it's a rapport building exercise for the client to know you're not full of crap, man. Like, look, I'm not claiming to know everything. I've got 1 year of experience. I've got 6 months worth of experience. I've got 2 years worth of experience. I'm 23 years into this. I'm still learning every day. 24 years, gosh.
Man, is that something that shows up on our podcast over and over?
We hear that constantly. Professionals are always saying that.
It's changing. We're in an environment where, like, how many pages was the
RPA?
Purchase agreement.
RPA
It's 16 pages now.
And how many was it when you started? 8?
Well, when Rita started, it was 1. When I started, it was like 8.
Well,
or
it was
10
also
maybe.
a carbon copy then too.
Yeah. And that was in 1978. So that was, or it was just a handshake.
Yeah.
That was
You're
it.
good.
Yeah. No, it's 16 pages.
Congrats.
It changes twice a year.
Yeah.
You know?
And how many training classes do you guys have to go to at the board to constantly see what this is? And then the legality, right? So like the loan application, same thing, right? It was 3 pages, it was 4 pages, we're at 8 pages, 10 pages.
Yeah.
All of these things change because at somewhere in there, no offense to any of our dear attorney friends, somebody got sued for something that didn't get covered, and so now we have a new paragraph that gets added every which direction, and it's always a cover your rear end. So, but there's a reason that you seek that counsel. So
Yeah. That's what we tell clients. This is long because if there's something in here, there was probably a lawsuit. I spent, the SBSA is 14 pages, the statewide Ballot Advisory. I have a client last week. I sat down to kind of try to walk him through it, and he was just laughing at some of this. He's 78.
Yeah.
We get to the section about methamphetamine production, and I'm like, Harry, the buyer for your property needs to realize that it's possible methamphetamines were produced on site at this home.
we must disclose that.
They weren't, all right? But it's just like we have to. You know what I mean? Like we have to put that on there because somebody bought a house that somebody cooked meth in. You know?
Right. And the contract, man, how long is it going to be in like 20 years?
Oh gosh, I don't know. And if digital doesn't help either because people just.
And something, Joe and Dustin, I want to touch on maybe before we head to wrap up is coaching. That was kind of on my list because I know, and maybe Joe, we'll start with you. You recently started coaching. How has that been for you? How has that helped you change your rhythms? Have you built any systems?
So Dustin and I, full disclosure, we're both in the same program. It's called CORE. It started as a lending coaching program, but there's realtor coaching as well. For me, coaching was about, okay, I theoretically am supposed to be running the show here, right? That's what they tell me anyways. I like trying to provide accountability for agents, but who's providing accountability for me, right? And there's a lot of things I know I'm doing. Why am I spending time doing this? There's got to be a better way. So I pay for coaching. It's not cheap, but I pay for coaching because I think it's
not cheap.
No, it's not. But it's a good investment, and it just keeps me on track. Right? I've got someone who will kind of yell at me a little bit in a good way if I don't, if I'm not making my calls, following with my clients, doing a good job for my people. Right? And for me, coaching's been really beneficial just for the accountability and the systems.
Yeah.
You actually do coaching. So how's that experience been for you?
So I get coached and I am a coach. Gotcha. I have 2 parts. So like Jane Floyd is my coach this semester, but I also have 12 students. Rick Ruby, who operates the CORE, is the head coach. They produce a theme every couple of weeks, which is what we're focusing on. Right now it's on teams and accountability. So it's presentation. It's how to, if we show up, then you would expect that you would be seeing professional people when you arrive. So that's the heavy focus in this 2-week section as we're walking into the summit. I think the biggest thing with coaching is there's a few pieces. The accountability is first and foremost, okay? The second thing is I think as you're building, okay, and this is where that $100, $250, $500, $1 million income that Rick talked about on that call with me the other day really comes into play. If you're going to build a business, and I don't mean have income, a business, you have to have systems in place. And part of those systems are, what do the metrics look like for hiring? How many people need to be on your team for the volume of closings?
So
right?
reverse engineering.
Correct. And so they have helped build that. And the biggest piece outside of the metrics of this is how many people I need to have on to close this many transactions. This is what the lead time would need to look like. Like we call it speed to lead, right? You get an opportunity. It's like, yeah, Joe, let me call them tomorrow afternoon around 3:30 p.m. It doesn't work that way, right? So you have to have those things in place. And they help create that structure because there's people that have done it in front of you. And I think that the biggest thing that I was shocked by, I call it a lending or a real estate fraternity, which is weird. But if I were to call anyone in the CORE and ask them a question about their business, they would give me full transparency. If I said, do you have a handbook? And they had a handbook created. Yeah, bro, did you want me to FedEx it to you? I mean, the sharing of information amongst professionals, you really begin to realize, like in a small market like Redlands, and no offense to anyone, everyone is trying to have their leg up on anybody else who may walk in for the same listing that you're walking in on. You may have a buyer's presentation package that says, this is why I suggest you choose me, right? They they have these things. In this, it's a much broader scale of, hey, even if we're in the same neighborhood, there's enough business for you and for me. And it's a team success, which is weird because you're personally in competition with each other. But it's created a fraternity that I didn't get that in college. I didn't have that with a particular friend group within the industry. It was always more like, how's your business? And when you talk to people, you were really looking to see where was I better than them, rather than how could I help them.
Sure.
And it's a changed mentality.
Makes you stronger too as a professional.
This is a negative. There's a lot of great people that are in lending in this market, and I'm a fan of a lot of them. There's very few that I'm not a fan of or I wouldn't say positive things about. Most of my peers that are within this area, if I approached you and you said this is who I work with, I would say, I really like that person.
Right.
You're probably a great fit. What do you love about that person? And I would validate your feeling towards that person. Not that I wouldn't desire that if that person left California to have that opportunity to speak with you about your business, but I'm not going to tear somebody else down in an effort to step in. So there is a sense of team, but the biggest thing with coaching is they taught me how to invest. They taught me how to build wealth. Then they held me accountable to it. Our focus in the course specifically is make, save, and give. The first thing that you focus on is how do you get your income. The save is you save 20% of your gross every month. The give is we want to see everyone giving at least 5% of their annual income away to charity. And we don't ask anyone, what charity do you give to? It's if you have something that you're passionate about, it could be local to the city, it could be City of Hope, it could be national, Alzheimer's, it doesn't matter. It's whatever you're passionate about being involved within things that are bigger than you and I. So it's coaching probably has given me a very great sense of like, who do I want people to know Dustin Bingaman as when I step out of this industry someday? So I don't think that I just wanted to get rich when I got in. That was my sole focus. If you'll double my income and that's what your promise is, sign daddy up. I'm in. And so it was money. And it probably took a 3-year period of time being in coaching before I saw a big switch to where we call it OPM and it's other people's money. I'm good with other people making money, man. I want to help elevate people. And so
success builds success,
I'm a little passionate about it. So
I know that's something you said, Joe, that one of your favorite parts is the coaching of our team.
Well, like Ryan McKee, right, who you work with a lot. I mean, he's technically my competitor, but we're trying to get him on the show just because he's a good dude, and we do, and like, if Ryan and I both interview for a listing, I want the listing.
Why wouldn't you?
But
so does he.
I will say though, it's funny as a real estate agent, you always feel better. It sounds terrible, but you always want it. We're competitive, but if I don't get the business, I love it when it's someone I don't love it, but if it's someone I see and it's like, oh, so-and-so got that listing. God, so-and-so's a really good agent. She's going to take super good care of them. I'm not worried about those folks. They're going to do a great job. Hopefully I can bring the buyer to that.
Well, right? And the pie is so big.
The pie is huge. And it's funny is
how many listings go to outside area agents?
The number one agent in our market is out of area agent. It's not my competitors down the street.
Is it really?
Number one is, it used to be, I think it still is. It's people from Riverside or LA. Agents I'll probably never ever see or relationships with or work with. So it's funny because we tend to eat our own, but it's like, well, no, I'm not actually, you're not my biggest competitor. It's people I'll never see.
Right.
And of course we want to be competitive and all that. But yes, I think relationships matter a lot in our industry. And I love that about Core too. The head real estate coach, I emailed her for all of Core. Kendra, I want to tune in my listing presentation. She emailed me back her listing presentation, and we're using it. So all that being said, a lot of good stuff today. And we're going to kind of roll that into our wrap-up questions here. You're talking about what you used to be really focused on, right? Kind of versus what you're focused on now. Okay. How would you define success?
I think that's individualized, honestly.
Okay.
For me, it's I coach baseball at Arrowhead Christian as well. Our mantra for the kids is leave it better than you found it. And so when I came into this industry, I learned a lot of terrible crap. I mean, there's stuff that I'm like, I think that the industry is given a bad name by some of the people that I worked with when I first got in. And so if I can leave this industry and this market better than I found it, then I'll feel super positive about that. That'll be a W.
Okay,
great.
That's great.
So, next, even more serious, what is one of your favorite places to go eat locally?
What a fantastic question.
We're giving a shout out to you today.
I'm a big fan of Greensleeves.
Really?
They
Okay.
have
Awesome.
that tomahawk steak on Tomahawk Tuesdays.
Love Tomahawk
Nice.
Tuesday.
It's a beautiful little steak, so
Well-
I'm all about it. Well, it's a great steak to go to dinner with 4 people and share.
Yeah. Green steaks is good.
Yep.
Okay, good deal. We always like to ask that question.
Yeah,
So
I'm
we get a
a
variety of
fan.
responses. So. And then kind of our last question, how could people find out more about you or connect with you?
Yeah. So obviously I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I have the Bingaman team page.
There we go.
I have the Arrowhead Capital page. So one of the things that when I acquired Arrowhead Capital about 5 years ago, all of my branding used to be the Bingaman team. But I transitioned from that because I'm not in competition with the people who work for me. So all of my branding is done as Arrowhead Capital Mortgage, and that's how we do that. But on a personal side, you can catch me at Dustin Bingaman Mortgage,
Sure.
or you can jump on the website, which is arrowheadcapital.com.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, I'm right downtown Redlands.
Love it. Well, Dustin, thanks for coming out. We appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today.
I got a
Very
couple
insightful.
quotes to end us on.
Dear Lord, please let us make episode 1.
Yeah, right.
Or one of them eventually.
One of them.
Well, here we go. Money's cheap. People borrow more. You got to be immune to the answer no. That's probably my biggest takeaway. Our greatest insecurity is rejection. And leave it better than you found it right at the end. I love it.
Love it. Awesome.
Good stuff.
Dustin,
Thanks
thanks
for
for
being
coming
on.
out. Everybody, thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your
Thanks
week.
for having me, guys.
All right, that's it.
Cool.
Podcast.
Thanks, Kobe.
Filmed it. How do you feel?